What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Black, your internet relationship and breakup coach. Today's topic: why won't my ex reach out to me? Now, it's a beautiful Sunday here in Houston, Texas, and I was just inspired to make this video for you. And the sun is out, the birds are chirping, but I know you're going through a lot, but I want you to remember life is all about perspective. Okay, right now you're probably zoomed in to the issues and the problems of your life right now. Sometimes you have to take a step back. Maybe go outside for a little bit, take a walk. And you'll notice that in the grand scheme of things, life is probably better than it seems. If you have the opportunity to watch this video right now, you have internet, you have a phone, you're probably staying somewhere, so you have shelter, with food on the table. Things are likely not as bad as it seemed. But anyway, let's talk about your ex, because I want you to understand this deeply. We're going to get you out of here and back into the world as quickly as possible, okay? So here's the bottom line. Human beings will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. Okay, our every action is dictated by those two driving forces. It's kind of a dance. Whatever we do is motivated by one of those two things. It's what am I trying to avoid? So if you think about procrastinations and not doing things that essentially should be in your best interest, like not doing your homework or not turning in your term paper when you should, and all these things that you know you should do. There's something in your mind that tells you this is going to be painful, this is going to be difficult, and so you avoid doing it. That's what's motivating you. Or sometimes maybe it's going to go get that huge slice of pizza that you shouldn't be eating when you promise yourself you're supposed to be on a diet. But again, the pleasure that you're going to get from enjoying that meal is driving your decision. Okay, so that's what drives every single thing that we do. And so when you think about that from the context of your relationship, the only reason your ex left is because they attributed more pain to staying in the relationship than leaving. Now, this is a very difficult thing to come to terms with, because you obviously look at yourself like, hey, I'm a good person. I did this for them. I did that. But obviously there's things that happened in the relationship. Now, some of those things your ex probably communicated, but some things fly under the radar. They're constantly deteriorating the strength or the integrity of the relationship without you knowing. It's kind of like that silent killer. Like some of the bad habits that we do. When you smoke, you don't see the effects inside your body because, again, it's not visible, but it's constantly eroding your health. A lot of times that's the same things that happen in a relationship. So it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, but there's likely things that happened, and your ex got to a point over time where being with you, as hard as it must be to accept, was more painful than being alone. So when you think about them wanting to come back, the opposite must be true. They have to get to a point where being away from you is more painful than not being with you. Now, this is a difficult thing to come to terms with, because a lot of this is something that has to happen inside your ex. And if you're in no contact, you obviously can't see exactly what they're thinking. If you watch some of these videos, you might get a better understanding, but if you're doing no contact properly, there's likely no communication. So you're flying blind. But I want you to understand that pain-pleasure paradox can change and can shift around the same decision. A lot of times it just takes some time and a different perspective. I want to give you a brief example before I let you go, okay? So, a couple years ago, I'm not going to tell you how long, I was in college in Stillwater, Oklahoma State. And I had this buddy that I met at school freshman year, really great guy, you know, confident, fairly good looking, just an all around good dude, okay? And I think we met in psychology and we just hit it off. It was a good friend of mine. And so we're going about our college experience, experiencing everything, like, you know, the party and the drink and some of those, you know, bad habits, or, you know, eating till late hours of the night, eating burgers and pizzas and chips and all of these things. Now, we would do this all the time while we hung out and played video games, but the main difference was that in the mornings, I was super into basketball, okay? I wasn't that great at basketball, but I loved playing basketball. And so, you know, every morning I'd be like, hey, do you want to go? You want to go play basketball? You want to go work out? And he would just be like, oh, no, I don't, you know, I'm not really interested. And I would just go play basketball for a couple of hours and then come back and get back to school and all the things that we had going. Well, what happened over multiple years is at a certain point I stopped asking because I knew he wouldn't go to the gym with me. But after, I think, our junior year, somewhere around that point, he had accumulated or gained about 50 to 60 pounds. And what I noticed was that as we would go out into the world, there was a lot of negative things that would happen that I think affected his self-confidence, whether that was talking to women or you know, having to change his wardrobe and not wearing things that he was necessarily comfortable with. And essentially what happened one of the days where I decided to go play basketball, he called me, he's like, hey, you going to go play basketball this morning? I said, yeah. And he's like, hey, let me come with you. And over time, he would come with me, he would go to the gym, he would get on the bike. He wouldn't actually play basketball, he would get on this bike thing. And before long, I got to a point where I was missing days at the gym, but he was always there. And he literally lost all the weight and then some. And again, this is just an example of how life kind of informs your pain, right? Which then drives the decisions that you make into the future. Initially, when I was asking him to go to the gym, it was more painful for him to go to the gym than not. He would rather play video games, or, you know, study, do something else, which is fine. But essentially, the same person got to a different point in time where doing the same things, you know, not going to the gym caused him more pain because of the feedback he was getting from his life. Sometimes life has to hit you, okay, for you to start to make different decisions. And that's exactly what happened. And till this day, he's one of the most fit people I know. And I think that decision was informed by everything he went through when he let himself go. And in a lot of ways, the biggest catalyst for change is pain. Your ex has to feel the consequences of their decision. If they haven't reached out to you yet, that is fine. If you know that for the most part, you were a good partner, and especially if right now you are focusing your energy on improving and becoming a better person for yourself, all right, but also for other people who get the opportunity to be in your life, you're setting yourself up to be that catch that your ex will be looking at like, what am I doing? I think I'm making a big mistake here, okay? But you can't come in between your ex and that pain. The challenging thing about pain, and I'll explain to you what your ex is likely going through, if they cared about you, if they truly loved you. What happens is that when they start to experience some of the pain of truthfully losing you because you're in no contact, a lot of times what we do as human beings is that we try to use coping mechanisms. So maybe you're seeing your ex post a lot about the fun things they're doing, the people they're hanging out with. A lot of times that is a cope to numb the pain. You know, the alcohol, the video games, the dating other people. A lot of times That is something that we use as human beings to help us get through the emotions going on under the surface. But these things never last long enough because, like I said, pain is the greatest catalyst for change. So don't try to interrupt or interfere. The best thing you can do is to be separate from that experience. It's better if you're totally not around. So all of the benefits and things that you offered your ex, they do not experience it, and they're in this, let's call it underworld of sorts, just like a different time or different experience than being with you. It's so powerful. So the reason your ex hasn't reached out yet, okay, obviously has to do with pain. Whether it was the experience in the relationship or also how you handled the breakup, if you were extremely needy, begging, chasing, forcing. But most importantly, time and space does help that pain. It does alleviate that pain by putting separation between you and the bad things that happen in the relationship, putting separation between you and the negative ways that you handled the breakup, until your ex gets to a point where those memories are not as solid, they're not as strong. And now they're yearning, he or she, for the good times. They're yearning for the positive attributes. That's a lot of times what happened. But again, these things are below the surface. You can't see it, so it's hard to deal with. But allow your ex to go through this, okay? And a lot of times you'll see the changes on the back end if only you will allow them to come to you naturally without forcing. But anyway, let me know what you think. If you have any thoughts, comments, go ahead and drop them down in the comment section below. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, the quickest way to do so is to click the link in the description and we can talk about your situation. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.